Welcome to the Koyos Collective, where we provide actionable business insights to current and aspiring entrepreneurs. My name is Antonio Di Meglio, and we are here today at the Pace University Global Innovation Summit. Today, we've had the pleasure of interacting with business leaders from all over the globe. And right now, I am here with
Andrea Legnani.
Andrea, it's a pleasure to be with you right now. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
So the first question we would like to ask about is, you've made an entire career in supporting startups through venture capital, through accelerators. What are some of the things that you would like someone who's just starting within their startup phase to be able to learn? If they're just starting to learn just to begin their company, what is the one thing that you would like them to kind of know as they're getting started in their journey?
Absolutely. So once you've gone through all of the necessary funding, which is probably the important part of funding of launching a company, and my area of expertise is clearly communication, right? So I work with many startups and many founders, helping them understanding the importance of branding when it comes to introducing a company to a new market. Many of the founders that I work with have been successful in their own countries, and they're now bringing their startups to the US. And I do workshops and boot camps, communication boot camps, where I tell them about the importance of considering communication as a strategic tool to improve the branding and to present your product or service to the market in the correct way.
So when you think about that method of interacting with these companies, right, and you're going branding first, what is the initial step that somebody needs to take when they're first thinking about what their messaging strategy should be?
Absolutely. So communication is a sort of a bridge between a current situation and somewhere you want to be in the future. So what I tell people is to start with an assessment of what's currently available, what the competition is doing, and then develop a communication plan that connects with where you want to be in the future and with your resources that you have available, right? Communication can be very expensive. Advertising can be very expensive. But based on the budget that you have and the type of resources that you can put in, you might want to decide the path towards that place where you want to be in the future.
And so when you're considering those steps towards that path, right, how does that change for someone depending on, the type of career that they've led before they started their business? Like, are the lessons that they've learned throughout their career still applicable? Or even rather, if they've had, built their company in a different country, how does that relate to maybe bringing their startup to the United States?
Well, listen, in the United States, audiences are very sensitive to storytelling, right? So they tend to feel more attached and more inclined towards company that have a story behind it. So what I tell founders is try to bring yourself into the picture. Right. It's not about the company itself. It's not about the product itself. But if it has a story, it will be closer to the heart of your audience. And in the United States, it has worked pretty well. More than in other countries. Other countries might be more interested in the product or in the service or how the product works or how much money they're going to make with the use of that product. Here, storytelling is very important. Bring personal details into the story, pays off.
So when you're considering where you should start in terms of your storytelling, should you start with the problem first or start with the solution?
I always suggest to start from the solution. People are more attracted towards a product or a service that help them solve a problem, so a solution, rather than, everybody has this problem, right? So start from the solution.
So in many of the storytelling methods that are currently used by startups, especially in pitching their companies, they do start with the problem. And that's been advised in many entrepreneurial systems. I'm curious if you have an opinion on that, or if we're perhaps just making a distinction here that your communication strategy should be different from your fundraising strategy.
Absolutely. So that's exactly the point. I've seen way too many startups using their marketing deck for the pitch, right? So what I tell them, it's a completely different story. When you're looking for money, you have to focus on the problem. You have to focus on how much money or how scalable your solution is going to be. When it comes to communicating to the outside world, when it comes to your audience that will have to buy your product, it's better to start from the solution.
And so that's something that I think is going to be really relevant, not just for tech founders, but also for physical product founders.
Absolutely.
Because I was a physical product founder myself, and I understand what it's like that you have to differentiate your product. And I remember taking an advertising class at NYU Stern, and they always spoke about the Procter & Gamble method of advertising.
Correct.
The professor was a massive, his father was like one of the Mad Men guys. It was like a whole thing. But and they're obviously one of the largest advertisers in the country, but they always advertise their specific product benefits. We see a Bounty commercial for paper towels. It's always like, oh, the thing is falling on the ground. You get the paper, the quicker picker-upper, right? And that is a solution-based marketing. And it's interesting because there's so many different worlds of communication. I think you actually bring up a good point that perhaps founders need to work beyond just the PR strategy that they're doing for their fundraising, and maybe even think of a separate PR strategy for the rest of their branding and marketing.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to then, take this conversation into your work with Alumniati. That is something that is a little bit different from this, but perhaps related. Would love if you could explain what you're doing there and how that's relating to the landscape.
Sure. Alumniati is based out of the UK in Cambridge and has been specialized for 20 plus years, actually, in building software to manage alumni networks. I'm helping Alumniati to expand their business in the US, so we're hoping to bring many other universities to the table, and in the corporate world. The corporate world has only recently approached the community space, the alumni space. If we think of alumni, we always think about alma mater and the universities.
Right.
But companies are nowadays finding opportunities to connect with people and to bring stakeholders with which they normally have one-to-one relationships all together in a community. So, for example, if you think about it, alumni are a community of people that used to work for the same company, but there are opportunities to bring in the community also other stakeholders, such as employees, because from the relationship between employees and alumni, there are opportunities. Companies have relationship with other partner companies. Companies have relationship with providers, right? But it's normally, again, one-to-one, company with the provider with the company, and that's it. If you bring them all together, might be opportunities for everyone. The important thing when you launch a community is to consider the benefits. Benefits for the company that are the stakeholders that are part of the community and the company itself, right? Relationship work very well if each component find a benefit from being part of the community. And honestly, being part of a community is like being in a relationship. Mm-hmm. It always works if both components of the relationship obtain a benefit from being part of the community. So we help companies understanding which are the stakeholders that should be brought in. So to not only focus on one single stakeholder, like could be alumni or employees or other partners, bring them all together and understand each of the component, which are the benefits that they can bring to the community. That's what we do.
And would you give the advice to be mindful for somebody who's just starting off in their career? Would you give them the advice to be mindful of the fact that people are going to leave their company and that they're going to want to maintain that network? Because your connection is, what is this saying? Your network is your net worth, right? That's what people say.
Exactly. And honestly, in the recent past, we've seen a huge shift in the job market.
Right.
We went from like 20, 25 years ago where people joined the company and stayed basically almost all of their career, unless something big happened, both in bad terms and good terms. They wouldn't leave the company. They stayed for a long time. And at Citi, when I've been with Citibank for 20 plus years, and I've actually built and ran for 11 years their alumni network. When we started back in 2011, the average tenure of people that joined the network was 20 years. And statistics tell us that the younger generation stay on average on their job 2.5 years. So in only 10, 15 years, we went from 20 years to 2.5, right? So the world is changing. Companies need to adapt to a new world where the relationship of the employee with the company is only 2.5 years old. And it's very different from the attachment to the company, to the culture of someone who's been with the company for 20 years. It's very different from one that has been only 2.5 years. And the career path that we're seeing went from kind of a straight line where you can join, you have a learning curve, and then you grow your career, and one day you just fall off planet Earth because you leave, and then you never think of going back to work for the same employer, nor the employer would think of hiring you back, to a spiral, right? To where the line sometimes is dotted, sometimes is solid, but at the end of the day, you always stay connected with the company through the alumni network and keep enjoying the benefits of the relationship. And the phenomenon that we've seen lately is the boomerang. Boomerang employees, people that leave and come back.
Oh, boomerang.
Right? Boomerang employees. Huh. Today, many of the largest financial institutions have about 10% of the current employee base that are actually boomerangs. And we realize at Citi that you can save between $50,000 and $75,000 every time you rehire an alum, of which about a half is pure headhunting fee. You don't have to pay a headhunter to present you with a slate of candidates, and then you don't have to pay the fee once you hire one of the candidates. And the rest is productivity. People that come back are effective day one, they hit the ground running, and they bring in some skill set that they acquire somewhere else, or someone else's expenses, right? And then we have statistics on the fact that people that come back, on average, stay longer, perform better, are happier. So it's a win-win, right? So if you're starting your career, make sure that you stay connected, you create your internal network, and you keep very tight, right? And you keep enjoying the benefits, and because at the end of the day, communities are the place where creativity starts, right? Where creativity gets ignited, and being part of a community is important for your life, for your professional life, and yeah, the late success of the social media goes exactly towards that proposition. And honestly, this is the point where companies are starting to understand the importance of the network, and they're creating their own to create solid opportunities for the future.
Yeah, and it's about, empowering the next generation of leaders, right? I think there's a benefit for them too when you think that if somebody was a part of that company at an early stage, like I think of all the employers that I've had, right? And I hope to one day, be in a position like yours or many others at the top of the food chain, and I would hope that they would be. I would be more inclined to support them in my future, right? And I think it's kind of like a school, actually. Like people want to look back at their alumni, at the school, at their alma mater. They want to be able to give back. Why not do the same thing for companies? Maybe that's just my perspective on work. I think that work is a beautiful part of life. I think that we can have so much impact in the work that we do. Perhaps others may disagree and think that they just want to have a job. And that's okay too. Of course, we're all welcome. But at the same time, I think that that's a perspective that should be had more. So thank you so much for your time today, Andrea. Really appreciate it. Could you tell people more about where to find you or learn more about what you're working on? Yeah,
you can find me on LinkedIn. So please do. Glad to connect. I also have a profile on Columbia University's website. So you can find me, Andrea Legnani. Glad to connect. Please connect.
All right. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Antonio.